Hello, and welcome to Kickin' Cooking in Quarantine. I'm so glad to have you all here today. This is our Facebook Live cooking show that we've been doing since quarantine began, although we're doing less quarantining and more being out in our communities, but we are also still doing quite a few virtual programs. In fact, at the library, all of our programs are virtual still. But the good news is that the library is now open for what we're calling grab and go service starting today. You can come to the library. We are limiting how many people can be in the library, and we are asking you to wear a mask. But if you are ready to do a little browsing of our shelves, we are now open, and we are really excited to welcome our community back in our doors. We have been doing curbside pickup in the last 3 weeks. We will still do contactless pickup for people who still don't feel comfortable being inside our building, and so you can still request items through our website, as well as calling us. And I realized I didn't introduce myself. My name is Mary Bear Shannon. I am a reference librarian at the Haverford Township Free Library, and I am talking about HTFL being open starting today. And so if you are ready to come and browse our shelves for some books, we are open and ready to serve you. It is not going to look the way it did before we closed. We are practicing social distancing. We do require you to wear a mask. We do have plexiglass barriers to keep our staff safe. We are limiting people in the building, but it is really exciting after over 3 months of being closed to the public to be open again. So again, this is Kickin' Cooking in Quarantine. My name is Mary Bear Shannon. I am a reference librarian at the Haverford Township Free Library. For those of you who normally watch this on Monday, you may have noticed that last week it was pre-recorded. I finally actually got a well-anticipated break and took some vacation and am now back. So we are doing this live today. Just a couple of thoughts about what we are going to work on today. So we really are kind of at the height of the summer, and many of us are starting to see the bounty of our gardens, and we're able to actually pick things. I've been actually using lettuce and herbs from my garden for excuse me, quite a while. My tomatoes are starting to ripen, although I do have some plants that are not doing too well because I have a black walnut tree in my backyard. But it is really exciting to see kind of the fruits of our labor. I am a gardener, and so is my son, and we practice our garden therapy out digging in the dirt, especially during this fairly stressful time. So I'm not sure if you knew this, but August 8th is National Leave a Zucchini on Your Neighbor's Porch Day. So that's August 8th. Put that on your calendar. National Leave a Zucchini on Your Neighbor's Porch Day. I've been aware of this for a while, and partially because I spent some time as a teenager in a very rural community, and people grew lots of zucchinis in that community, and often we would get bags and bags of produce from our neighbors. My stepfather was a pastor, and so many of his congregants felt like their offering in the summer had to be needed to be in the form of produce. So often we would get bags of produce from the people that were in our church. In fact, we had one gentleman who had a substantial garden and grew corn, and he used to call us up and say, "Are you ready for some corn?" And we would say yes, and they would say, "Well, drive over here. And we would, and he would literally pick the corn off of the stalk, put it in a bag, and throw it in the back seat of our car and say, run home, shuck this corn, and put it in the pot, because the sooner you pick it off the stalk and the sooner you get it into boiling water to eat, the sweeter it is. And it really was. It was some of the best summer corn I ever remember eating. But I just thought that was really funny. It was almost like we were doing something clandestine. He would say, come over and don't even stop the car. I'm going to put the bag of corn into your back seat and take it home and cook it right away. So I guess I am kind of interested if anybody else is growing things in their garden. I know that during this time of pandemic, gardening has really become a pastime for people that maybe haven't done it in the past. I have to say, I think my garden looks the best it's ever looked. And I'm growing a lot of things in my garden. Tomatoes, I've got zucchinis. They're not just yet ready, but I've got lots and lots of herbs. And we also have this is the second year of a raspberry bush and a blackberry bush. And so we're actually getting berries this year. So it's like, a treat every day going out to see how many berries are actually on the bush. So if you are watching, or if you're growing anything, I'd love to see in the comments if you're growing anything and if you've actually harvested anything yet in your garden. As usual, I've got a couple of quotes. This one I just laughed out loud and I had to include it. It's from Garrison Keillor. And he says, sex is good, but not as good as fresh, sweet corn. That's from Garrison Keillor. Here's another quote from Alice Tokus. The first gatherings of the garden in May of salads, radishes, and herbs made me feel like a mother about her baby. How could anything so beautiful be mine? And this emotion of wonder filled me for each vegetable as it gathered every year. There is nothing that is comparable to it, as satisfactory or as thrilling as gathering the vegetable one has grown. And I definitely feel that way. I feel very proud when I can pick things off of the plants in my yard and say, I grew this and now I'm going to eat it. And it's almost always better than anything you could get at a store. So. And then my last quote by Ron Finley: gardening is the most therapeutic and defiant act you can do. Plus, you get strawberries. So I definitely agree about the therapeutic. And I think as we continue to have fairly bad news about the pandemic and the specter of us continuing to social distance for many months to come, I'm hoping that your gardens are as much of a solace as it is for me and my family. And so I wanted to do a recipe today that used some of the things in my garden and some things hopefully that are in your garden. As many of you know, I run the cookbook club here at the library, and we meet every second Monday, and we met in person for 5 years until the pandemic, and now we're meeting online. And it's been hard because what we usually do is we pick a cookbook and everybody cooks from it. They come in and they get their recipe and they make their dish, and then they bring it in to share. Of course, to me, that reminds me of a church potluck, everybody bringing something to a potluck. It's great. There are some very, very good cooks in the cookbook club. And again, we are still meeting online, and anybody is welcome to attend. If you find our event on Facebook, there is a link to Zoom, and you can just join us. That's the cookbook club. So we're meeting tonight, which is the second Monday, and we are actually cooking recipes from the Smitten Kitchen cooking blog by Deb Perlman. She's been around for a while. She's done 2 cookbooks, which actually the cookbook club has done. We've done both of them. Her first one was the Smitten Kitchen cookbook, and the second one was Smitten Kitchen Every Day. I have to say, I think the first one was better, but they were really amazing recipes. She's a very good cook. She's a really good blogger too. There's lots of people that follow her, Deb Perlman of the Smitten Kitchen. So I told people with the cookbook club that they should just go to her blog and find a recipe and cook it, and then we can talk about some of the recipes from the Smitten Kitchen blog. And so the reason I've been thinking about, kind of the height of the summer and its bounty was a recipe that I found that I'm cooking for our group tonight. It's called Herbed Summer Squash Pasta Bake. And so it allowed me to pick some things from my herb garden. It also allowed me to use some zucchini and squash, which, of course, to me just defines summer. And as I said, lots of people used to leave bags of zucchini on my front porch when I was growing up. So the herbed summer squash pasta bake it's got a couple of different parts. I'm going to show you kind of the last part and then the assembly. It is a casserole, but it has some really great ingredients. So I am now going to move over to my kitchen so that you can see me make this dish. So come with me. Okay. So again, you're going to see my midsection, but you'll get to see my pot here. Again, this has a couple of different parts. It has pasta, which I will actually show that I have already cooked. It's about 8 ounces, so it's about a half a box. I used shells, large shells, and that's cooked and all ready to go. I also cooked my zucchini, and the zucchini, it was just a pound of summer squash. So I used a zucchini and I used a yellow squash, and I just sauteed it. I made them into, I cut them in half and then sliced them like in half moons, and then I sauteed it. I made sure that some of it got some nice browning on it, and I'll show you how that turned out. After I cooked this for about 10 minutes, I also salt and peppered this. I put a half a lemon on this, and it's just been sitting for the last 20 minutes. I just did it a little while ago. So those are the first two components to this dish. The last component is really a white sauce. And I'm going to show you, but it's got some really great ingredients and some really fresh ingredients for this time of year. So we're going to heat our pan. She said just use the same pan that you sauteed the zucchini and the squash in, so I did that. And I've got 3 tablespoons of butter in the pan, and that's just melting right now. And then I'm going to add some scallion. She calls for either 3 large scallion or 5 skinny scallions. I had 5 skinny scallions. I am going to put in here the onion part. I also did reserve the green part, the ends, for later. That's actually going to be kind of to finish off the dish, finish off this part of the dish, but you don't want to cook this. This is much better kind of fresh and not so wilted. So, but we are going to cook the onion part. And so as I start to melt this around, I will then put in my scallion here. Scallion, green onion, what do you guys call it? I don't know if there's that much of a difference, but I think I grew up saying scallion, but I've run into plenty of people that call them green onions, but I don't think there's that much of a difference. If there is, please let me know. I will apologize, but I have heard it used interchangeably. So anyway, this is all melted. I'm going to put my scallion in here. And we're just going to start to cook this. You're basically just going to let this sizzle for about 1 to 2 minutes. It is starting to cook in the pan. And then I'm going to add my flour. This is going to be my thickening agent. Like all white sauces, you start with a butter or some kind of oil as a base, and then there's always some flour to be your thickening agent. And you have to cook that for just to get the kind of the raw floury taste out of that. So we will do that for once I add the flour in another 30 seconds to a minute. I will add the flour and we'll cook that and get it all dampened and absorbed. And then we're going to start with the milk. This is a cup and a half. It called for whole milk. I think that probably makes it a little creamer. You could certainly make this more low fat with a 2% or a 1% or skim. It's just going to have a different consistency. So you just have to kind of be ready for that. Okay, so I have been sauteing this green onion for about 1 minute to 2 minutes, and now I'm going to put my 3 tablespoons of flour in here. And I'm using I'm using a whisk because eventually I'm going to whisk my milk in just to keep the lumps out. That's the thing that you always have to be concerned about, is making sure that you don't have lumps as you're making your white sauce. And I think, a whisking helps that a lot. So I've cooked this a little bit. We're getting the raw flour taste out. And then little by little, we're going to start to add this milk. Really, as she says, a splash at a time. And as between each time you cook that in and you add more, and eventually this is going to come together and become our sauce that we will add some other amazing summer goodness to. And we're just doing this a little bit at a time. I mean, it's interesting around the world where there's so many things. We call it a white sauce. Other cultures call it other things. That it's basically the same thing. It's a white sauce. Trying to think of all the different. I know in France, somebody will think of this while I'm making this. But I know in France they call it something different, but it's basically essentially the same thing. Okay, so we're still cooking in and pouring in the milk. It's getting very, very thickened, which is great. Exactly. And between each one, we're just whisking it to make sure that we have all the lumps out. So this is already fairly thick. And the other thing you want to add to this that I actually forgot, but we can put this in now, is some garlic. I should have actually put that in with my scallions. So this is what happens when you do live TV. Which is okay too, because I always get a little nervous about burning my garlic, but I'm going to put this in here now. And we're just making sure that this is all integrated. And then at the end here, and I'm actually going to turn this off because this is plenty done. I'm actually going to put in some lemon zest. This is just about a teaspoon of lemon zest. Which I think it will give that really nice summery freshness. And then some salt and pepper to taste. And I'm going to put a little bit of salt in here. I'm not going to put a whole lot of salt because I was supposed to use unsalted butter and I didn't have it. So I'm going to just put a little bit of salt and then some pepper to taste. I'm not a big pepper person, but I definitely miss it when I don't have it in there. Okay, so the sauce is now thickened. It's I've removed it from the heat, and now I'm going to put in kind of my stuff from my garden. So it calls for a 1/4 cup of parsley, and half of that goes in this dish. So we're going to reserve the other half for the top to finish the sauce. And then also I have mixed herbs, and I have some fresh oregano, I have some thyme, and she called for mint, which I'm kind of intrigued by. So I chopped this. This is supposed to equal combined together a tablespoon. So I'm going to put that in now. So it's got that really nice kind of herby goodness here. And at the very end, you put in the tops of the scallions. And again, you're not really cooking these. These are really to kind of give it that freshness. Okay. So that's it for the sauce. Now I'm going to assemble the entire shebang here. And so we are going to start with our pasta. So that's, again, about 8 ounces of pasta, about 1/2 pound. And I'm going to put in the summer squash in with the pasta. I'm going to get all those juices. Okay. And it calls for 3/4 of a cup of Parmesan. Half of it's going to actually go in. And also 4 ounces, or about 1 ounce, of shredded mozzarella. Actually, that's for cubed, but all I had was shredded. So this is my Parmesan and my mozzarella. I am going to reserve, this is again for the top. This will be about 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese, and some of the rest of the parsley for a nice look. And I am going to actually move to a better spoon. And then the last thing is the sauce. And we're going to put this in. It's nice, and I'm not really doing this well for my camera. We're putting in the sauce. Like I said, I'm no Ina Garten, I guess, from the Food Network. So let's get the final goodness here in. I don't want to. Okay. All right. So I think we have everything in. And then, so again, it's just mixing it up. Turn this off. And this is going to go into a casserole dish. And I've got the oven ready at about 400 degrees. And then you're going to cook it for 25-30 minutes, really, till it is kind of brown and bubbly on the top and cooked all the way and melted all the way through. Just a nice summery casserole with, like I said, the great bounty from your garden or from your CSA, your community sustained agriculture. I know lots of people in Havertown get their farm share from local farms or farms a little farther out. And this would be a great way to use your zucchini and your squash. So anyways, I think we are ready to put this in our casserole. So as you can see, here's our dish. And here's our casserole to go into the dish. Now again, this makes for 4. I thought this was a nice size for my family. You could double this if you were cooking for more. Okay, and that is it. So we've got this kind of spread out. This is about a 1.5 quart casserole. If you were going to double this, you definitely need a larger one, or you could make two. Deb Perlman talks about freezing this, and it freezes really well. So you could make this and then get it, thaw it, and pop it in the oven on a really busy day. So again, we're just going to top it with a little bit of our Parmesan cheese to give it that nice browned look at the end, and the rest of our 1/4 cup of parsley. So, and then the parsley's from my herb garden too. So, okay, so that's it. And we are going to put this in the oven, again, a 400-degree oven, for 25 to 30 minutes. Okay, so back over here. Anyway, thank you for joining me for Kickin' Cooking in Quarantine. Again, I hope that you are getting many yummy things from your garden, and you've been able to cook from it. So again, thanks for joining me, and I hope you have a great day.